The Expo 74 World's Fair took place right above Spokane Falls, and this air tram is one of the last vestiges of the fair that you can still ride today and get a great view.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
So I just found a World's Fair ashtray in one of the shops here in Spokane, and this shows the general area where the fair was held right above the falls downtown. And here's an overview. They're doing some renovations to the area. The World's Fairgrounds turned from a greasy, nasty train yard on that island, cutting everything off from each other, and transformed into a wonderful playground for downtown Spokane. The pavilion used to be the U.S. Pavilion. They still have the big screen there as one of the key buildings of the fair. There's a few other things left. The Red Wagon is still there. It's now called Riverfront Park. On the other side of Riverfront Park, we see the First Interstate Center for the Arts. That was the big concert arena built for the World's Fair, and it is still a major convention hall. And the statue in front of it is by Harold Balazs, one of my favorite artists. He did a lot of really cool modern sculpture, particularly. I have a painting of his, but this is one of his sculptures left from the World's Fair. You can see another one in the water there below the clock tower. The clock tower is all that's left of the old train station. That's the only thing that they preserve for the World's Fair, and it's a neat monument connecting Spokane's past and future. However, we are here to shop, so I'm back on North Monroe Street in the Monroe Street Antique District, and this is Maryland's on Monroe. Great name. It's auspicious to find a bunch of neat stuff outside, especially when the first thing is a wrought iron music stand for $25 or book stand. This is a perfect thing for June brides, and I expect it'll sell for about $75, so I'm going to get that and keep on looking inside here because there's a lot of fun things outdoors, and this place is always crammed full, so we'll take a look. Here's a 70s Italian Decanter Set, $22, not a bad price at all, especially with the old-fashioned tumblers there. And a whole lot of salt and pepper shakers. I like the Donald and Daisy here. They're not in too bad shape. In this case, the yellow and red paint is painted on rather than fired in the glaze. These are treasure craft. They're priced at $12. That's about right. The little shakers would sit in that stand there. They did a lot of those in the 70s. If you like crystal and clear glass for its shine and sparkle, this is a wonderful time to be buying. This set of 6, which I believe are Cambridge Rose Point, are priced at $20. I used to get $20 per stem for those. Great area to collect. It's something no one else is doing right now. The horse bookends here are Sirocco wood, which is a wood composite pressed together in the 30s. They didn't switch to plastics until the 60s, but there's no stand for it. Collectors know Hudson's Bay for their blankets the most, but Hudson Bay Company also sent lots of china from England into Canada, and this plate commemorates that. The Bay is still one of the biggest department stores in Canada and has been around 350 years. If you like old school tech or want to repurpose great graphics from fun 50s fantasy futurism, Popular Mechanics and Popular Science were full of that sort of stuff. Look at the great graphic on this one. Now, you do see a lot of those magazines, but this pile of ephemera has a lot of things that are harder to find. The early 60s boat handling guide. This is from 1915, advertising something that invigorates your hair without coloring it. There's a good pile of ephemera to go through here. And also a big pile of albums. This is definitely a store where you could spend a lot of time looking through individual things that you collect. They even have cassettes, along with a bunch of beer clocks and signs priced around $40 each, which is about right. I have been buying jarts for years, and now it's really caught on, and they can sell for over $200 for a complete set in mint condition. It's amazing. They also have this wonderful typewriter in the middle of their paean to Marilyn Monroe. They have all sorts of Marilyn photos. These are reprints. These are famous quotes of hers. These are all posthumous, but they're a lot of fun and people really love her still. I do. With the popularity of the old rotary phones, they're getting harder to find and more expensive, and so people are starting to buy the colored push-button phones from the late 70s and early 80s. This one's an earlier pink wall phone, and that one is $60, but a lot of these others are as low as $20 and $25. So let's see, tins, office supplies. I'm going to look at these round pencil sharpeners and then head on down the street because we're going to run out of time before we run out of stores. Well, between the blocks, there's this car place, but it's got vintage and antique too. Look at the 61 Chevy. This is one of the most underrated styles of theirs, I thought. And an 80s Camaro, a 66 or 7 Mustang. That's a nice model there. Look at that stocky body. And then an old Fairlane like my mom had, but hers did not look like that. And my oldest sister bought one of these when it was new as a present to herself when she got her first job. I wish she still had that car. Boy, it'd be worth a fortune now. This is an early 70s Mustang. And what a beautiful car in beautiful condition. Looks good from every angle. All the stores seem to be about 2 blocks apart, and here's a new one I haven't been to before. This one is called, it looks like there's a sign there, but let's look at the yield sign first because I like road signs. This seems to be priced at, okay, well, normal retail price, but this place is called Rejuvenate, found refurbished, etc. So this should be a fun place, something new to see. It looks to me like this is a dealer collective. I see a kind of cool old early 80s radio here. These old clock radios are starting to sell, so don't pass those up at estate sales without at least looking them up now. These folks, it seems like each space has a whole lot of stuff, and it's older and vintage. Some of it's more collectible than others, though. You will find in vintage stores that some people, just anything from that era is what they're looking for, and some people curate a little more to what the collectors seem to be buying. So there should be some finds in here. We'll take a look. A lot of people assume if it's brown, it's treasure craft, but actually a lot of other California potteries followed them into that brownware phase when they made it popular in the 50s and 60s. And there's a cute little jeweled Italian candy. You see a lot of silver fade in Spokane, and these strawberry canisters are from a 1970s Japanese set. And I also wanted to show this guy because he looks like treasure craft, but he's not. This little fish ashtray was one of the things the Japanese started knocking off, and treasure craft had to sue. Alright, so there's an old console record player. Copper canisters. Some of this is just decorative stuff, but this is collectible. This is Viking's Epic, and it's the green long-tailed bird. And he's priced at $30, which is about the going rate these days. I like the orange striped dishes there too. A lot of just houseware stuff here. It's older, it's usable. Let's see if this is rainbow glass. Yeah, the bottom's shaped a little too much. I think that's newer. I like the chrome canister set, one piece. And then here is a Hull Puss in Boots. These are worth about $25 to $30, which is how they have it priced. Very cute piece from the 1950s. Even as a kid, I loved these Spun fiberglass lamps. I still do. This one's priced really well, but you have to check them closely. Look how it's a little broken there. All you had to do was drop them on their side or set them down hard, and you could crack pieces out. So even though it's a fabulous price, I'm going to have to leave it here. Darn, I really could use one of these. I'm out of them. This was shown in the Sears catalog in 1975. It is fake copper, but it had the look. It's cute. One thing when you have a store so crowded where you're mixing newer housewares and older things is you really have to be careful about what you're buying if you're looking mainly for vintage. You cannot assume all of this is old. I would venture to say that none of these studio pottery pieces are more than about 15 or 20 years old. Let's see what this is made of. Yeah, it's plastic. Interesting. I was hoping it was ceramic like Ozark Mountain pottery, but it is not. You see a lot of things in here that are repainted, repurposed, new things made out of old materials, very decorator oriented, but I'm looking for more collectibles. This piece is collectible. This is Jeanette Glass Constellation pattern from the late 60s and early 70s. And then more just mainly decorative, even though it's vintage. This piece looks like an American company, but it's thin, and that tells us it's Japanese, even though it's lost its label. That would have been made in the 80s. They've got a lot of chalk paint here, so this is really more of an interior store, largely. And that's why you see the mix of old and new. But there are some fabulous old things in here. This set, with the fleur-de-lis and diamond pattern, is a great bar set of silver fade. Okay, it may not be quite as great as the price they have on it, but it is really neat to see it all together. It's a good pattern that would sell well in Kentucky and the Mississippi River areas, where there's a lot of towns that were settled by the French. Oh, and here's a set of treasure craft canisters in butterfly pattern from the late 70s. J.C. Penney sold a ton of these and helped them stay in business so they could reimagine themselves as a dinnerware maker. And wow, another interesting tumbler set in a caddy. These are Culver from the 1970s. I don't think I've seen so many tumbler and caddy sets in one town in a long time. This little dog here is by a company called Silvac from England, and Silvac was an old company that in the 30s decided to start selling molded ware to stay in business, and it did very well. They ended up, like Beswick, becoming more known for modeling very realistic animal figures. And they are still in business. They went out of business briefly and then were reinvigorated by a new investor. So they're one of the few British companies still making pottery. Here are two very funky looking faux wood grain tables from the early 70s. I have to say, I have a hard time selling these step tables because people don't know what to do with the space underneath. And this wood grain finish was cheap looking. McCoy came out with its Harmony line in the late 50s and early 60s, where they used two different colors and the one glaze was just mottled over the other glaze. It's a very distinct look from the period, and that price is not bad for what it is. Well, I seem destined to find one cool thing in each shop up on North Monroe today, and I think this is my cool thing. We're going to look it over. I know what this is, but I want to show you where to look. So the big question with these old metal plaques, first of all, are they old and are they signed? So, well, look at the back. No signature there. Well, that's good because the signature we want is on the front, and there it is in the lower corner, Juret. This is Curtis Juret. It's priced at $30. I will sell it for $300. I'm very happy. This is a wonderful Roseville Zephyr Lily pot, the Jardiniere. I just love that pattern from the 30s. And this little smoker has the same colors, also from the same period. And here's a very cute little thing for someone expecting a new baby. It's a vase for the flowers with the stork at the door. Well, I had ideas that I was going to talk to you while I walked down the street, but it's very noisy out here. But we're approaching the 1889 Salvage Company. This is another store full of what, well, you saw vintage, repurposed, reclaimed goods. Let's see what they've got. I have not been in this store before, but it looks fun looking at that crazy lamp in the window. And here we are. Wow, this has some cool stuff. Another interesting lamp with the big drip glaze. This is probably made by Hager. You can't always tell because the company sometimes would make the ceramics for someone else and not have their name on it. But then there's this. I love these wall sets, and I would so buy this if I had a way to take it back. I'm driving a small car today, unfortunately. These were originally from Denmark, and then people would make them here in America. Some people would even make their own. I believe this one may be homemade. I love the orange balls for the knobs. That is just fantastic. And yeah, you could tell it was handmade because you saw that plywood on the edge when you opened it, but still really cool. $45. I used to sell these for $25. Now if I can buy them for $25 and price them at $45, they're nice to have for display. And this is painted like Vernon's raffia ware, but it's not their shape. I'm not sure who did that. Oh, you've got to see this lamp. Look at this fabulous shade. It's driftwood. Red Wing made a dinnerware pattern that matches that. Oh, what an incredible piece. I cannot believe how cool that shade is, and there can't be many of these in good shape.
So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video.
I also like these little chrome tables. Over here is one. I use these for display at shows, but it's priced about retail. Now, salt and pepper shakers, the two little guys there are from one of the Reno casinos. And we're going to look at some other displays. There's a lot here. Oh, let's take a look at this. See what they did where they painted this all pastels, because pastels are trending, and it looks great right now. It's very timely. If you do something like that, make sure you're willing to redo it when that time passes. I went into a store where they had orange and magenta shelving from the early 90s in Dayglow, and everything on it clashed. It was terrible. These are neat displays. I love these old store displays with the chrome wraps around them, and look how great they are for kitchenware. That'd be fun to have in a house for display if you were a collector. I always like these little train cases. $18 is about the right price. You know, funnily enough, I've never owned one of these because I've never found one inexpensively. My day will come, though. Little Griffith Spice set. Love the yellow caps. This is very happy and sunny and looks like a 70s wall pocket, probably Japanese. This one is 50s. I believe this is Walker Potteries, even though it's not marked. That's from California. And then the Kitchen Queen. I do love this color combination. The mint green or seafoam green or jadeite was very popular in the 20s and into the 30s, and you see a lot of kitchen furniture painted in those colors because of that. And then there's this set. I love these chairs. Now, the chairs are not original to this table, the Daystrom dining table with leaf and 4 chairs, but you know what? I'd probably take those apart and use the chairs with another table. I just think they're fantastic with that black weave and those orange pads in great shape. And then this is a really good deal on this little set. I wish I had more room for furniture. $79 for a porcelain wire base table and the 2 ice cream parlor chairs. They should sell for double. Here is another oddball display piece. I really like the roundness of it. I'm getting more into the display furniture here than the items, although the items, there's some cool stuff. Siestaware Cookie Hotel. Wooden canister sets from the late 40s with the decals. And then the tin ones with the pine cones are going to be late 50s. And then these are going to be late 60s, early 70s. These are likely English candy tins done with this Grecian sort of design. We had to sell those when I was a very little kid, full of candy as a fundraiser for school. That's why I recognize them. Lots of character glasses in Spokane. There's a couple of dealers who really specialize in these, so they've got a lot of different varieties, and you really have to know this category. White print of the name of the character can be a different price than black print of the name of the character, and it can make a huge difference, so something worth researching. Pluto from Japan, or a Pluto-like figure with the paper label. These are so cool. I think I want to get them just because they're such great designs. I know it's not the full set, though. And we have a little earring holder. I love these things. These are wind chimes from the early 70s. This is a company out of Portland, Oregon. The guy wanted to do studio work in stoneware, and it was easier for him to buy an existing crock maker and use their ware to do his modernist designs, but he kept all the old people making the crocks in business for a long time by doing it. Snoopy is feeling groovy, so you know that's from the early 70s. This shopping reminder I wanted to show you. It's new. It's an original wrap, but it is newer than you think. People think these were done in the 50s. Well, this one's made in Taiwan. This is 1980s. You have to remember there was a lot of 50s nostalgia then. Love the base, hate the shade. Shade might be original, but I would change it. But what a great rib cage lamp this is from the late 50s or early 60s. Such a fun design and very modernist, and pink, which is very in. It's a good price. This is a big store, so we're going to head down into the basement and see what might lurk there, because bargains live in basements sometimes. So this has a few collectible aspects. It's Richfield service from a gas station. It's local interest because it's the North Central Spokane Indians. And it's also, well, a bit of cultural appropriation there. But you have to remember, the people who were rooting for these teams, they were behind that logo and that graphic and that image. So they really weren't trying to be disrespectful necessarily. They thought they were being tough. I hope Critter Girl is watching because she lives in Spokane and she collects a lot of this Israeli brass, so I thought she might enjoy seeing this. It's $22. I like looking for that sort of thing. I think it's an up-and-coming collectible area. This guy's a little bit flushed from drinking, it appears. Okay, I've got to say, for a rudimentary way of putting the shelves together, how clever is this? You end up with hanging shelves, you end up with display on 2 levels. It couldn't have cost a lot. Such a clever way of doing it. And they've got some neat stuff on it. These are Georges Briard. And let me see. Oh, where'd that go? Okay, well, are they Georges Briard? No, it's Vito Barry. There were a lot of different signatures, and all of them are collectible now, but you've got to look to see who you have, because the price on this is less than a Georges Briard. They're selling some new go-alongs related to cocktail culture. And then there's this. He's repurposed, but wow, is he fantastic. I have to admit, I approve of this one. And he actually dispenses, so you get a light bulb and a cool guy there to pour your drinks for you. That's just really fun. This really does have a fun aspect to it. They're mixing new and old, but they are making it look like something you could have at your home, especially if you want a tiki bar. They have a new one here, but it's neatly made. I have to admit, I would be happy to own it. I like the old ones better, though. And here's some vintage things in this bar display. The McCoy Apollo decanter. This little guy here is based on the World's Fair IMAX theater at the Vancouver World's Fair. And then the bar set on the right there is one of the ones that was made in Japan for Playboy. Here we've got a nice display of vintage fashion. Some really good old hat boxes. Some neat 1950s clothing, things that are wearable. In fact, they have racks and racks of it here. Lots of accessories, fun colors. If you are a rag picker, this would definitely be a place to take a look. Or if you love vintage style, this might be for you too. Let's see what we have in furniture here. I always like these little vanities. This one doesn't have its mirror, but it is priced really inexpensively. If you just needed it for utility, it's only $95. The 1889 and 1889 Salvage Company refers to the year of Spokane's incorporation, also the year that Spokane and Seattle both suffered great fires and had to rebuild from scratch. This space here has some really fun signs, and I believe that all of these that you're going to see as we flip around here are going to be from some sort of a carnival or some sort of traveling show, and they look like they're 1960s or 70s. Looks like somebody didn't pay attention to the rules for the shootout because they hit the sign more than they hit the targets. And this is something I could take back to Kentucky and probably sell, the Tucky Derby. I think that's really fun. And then, well, the sign says it all. Let's see inside to appreciate. This is the fellow who has all the circus stuff, and he just gets a lot of fun, whimsical things. This is a lot of kitsch from the 30s to the 70s. This is a great deal on the thermometer and the Sirocco wood, except the thermometer is bad. When you see the red separated like that, that means it's not working properly, and you'd have to replace it. The mushrooms are a homemade thing, cute, but not anything terrific. 1910s Capitol building. A newer lampshade there. This again is a mix of older and newer, and so you do have to know, if you're looking for vintage, don't just assume because it says antiques on the door that everything is old. This is a Twin Winton, another brown cookie jar made by someone other than Treasure Craft. The Wintons ended up working with Treasure Craft after they sold out their pottery in 1975. And the Indian Chiefs, that's a neat bookend set in chalkware. Might have to have those. They have a good look, although he seems very Anglo. And here's the main front showroom of 1889 Salvage Company. What a fun store. I'm glad I discovered it, and I will definitely have to get back to Spokane and see more of it. One casualty, Almost Antiques, which is an old fixture store here, is no more, so Almost Antiques. And then right across the street is Paint in My Hair. Now this is a different style of antique and vintage store. I don't go to a lot of these because it's more heavy into decor, but it's at the corner of Monroe and Frederick, and it's got some pretty inviting window displays. But when I see chalk paint and home decor and gifts, I know this is going to be more of an interior store with some old things.
Hello, welcome in.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Well, right off I see that there are some really cool lockers and some older furniture that they have not painted. I like the fact that they chose what to respect. You'll see a lot of redone furniture and repainted here, and I think for the most part they seem like they're using good judgment. I like the old doors being used as a screen between spaces, and you can see the mix of new and old in the shadow boxes. That old 70s piece painted white, that may actually have helped it. You have to remember, though, that when you're in an interior decor store, you're going to see reproductions. Look at the wear on all of these pieces. Look how the stain in the right top corner, even though they're different images, the staining is in the exact same place on every single one of them. It dips down. There's a run to the right where it's darker, like a little rivulet. Every one of them has the same staining. This is fake, 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 so don't be fooled. The bread box weighs about half of what an original one would weigh and costs about half as much. And again, you'll see fake wear on here. Those chips are not chips at all. Those were put there and then darkened in to make it look as if this has age, but it does not. And neither do these. Look at the big filing marks that are very evident. In the old days, they would not have done that. It would have been a question of quality control. They would not have allowed that out of the factory that way. Now, having said that, I don't mind the fact that people are taking old pieces of furniture, especially because a lot of these are very basic and might have been damaged. A lot of things made in the 70s were made with bad veneers and pressboard, and frankly, painting them may be the only way to bring them back. So I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of repurposing, and they have put it together in a very inviting way. It's just that I'm looking for old stuff, so for me, it's pick the things on the counter that look old and then make sure they are. That one is not. But there is a strategy to shopping a store that's mainly interiors if you're mainly a vintage dealer, and that is to look for the hidden corners and the basements and the places where the old stuff may have been put, or things that they were using as props may have been put. And I am in the basement, and I immediately am seeing a lot more old things than I was seeing upstairs. Including, wow, look at this, a Grundig radio, and Grundig is a German company. You can see it's got the broadcast and FM and shortwave, and that's why these became very popular in America. They were very well made, and people who wanted a shortwave radio would buy them, and it's only $30, so I'm going to plug that in. If it works, it's probably a $95 or $100 piece, and I'll be thrilled to get it. So, see, this is how you shop these kind of places. You just have to ferret out where the old stuff lurks and know what you're looking at and pick through it. The signs here do not appear to be old. They have that faded look, but look at the way it's painted in, again, to get that effect. Whenever you see red in the background, be suspicious and look closely, because that's something that they do to simulate aging and weathering and rust. And you know, they're not pretending. They have a guy here, brushstroke away, who's the owner and artist, named Danny Wurtzloff? I hope I got that right. Danny does a good job. I would have him paint signs for me. Just know that you're getting new, that's all. Now, this is not new, and that is a good price, $58 for the old copper fire extinguisher. These are selling for over $100 in a lot of places. We're going to take a look and see if it has its innards, but I think I might get that. And a lot of old oil cans and such. You know, again, people are looking for these rustic ways of decorating with what's left from the past, and a lot of the things you find in old barns look like this. Well, maybe not yay wine, But certainly hubcaps, and this one's a neat one because it's from a Crossley. Crossley was very famous for selling refrigerators and radios, and he even tried cars after the Second World War. They were cute, they were tiny, they didn't do well in the marketplace, and they're hard to find now. But it's neat to see a hubcap from one. Here's an old crock from Western Stoneware, which is in the Midwest, actually, and they've got that great maple leaf stamp. I always like their stuff because it's very graphically vivid that way, and let's see how much they want. 36, yeah, that's about right for that piece in my opinion. Well, this ugly gray box has a surprise. This would have been a field call box for somebody in the phone company. And people who are serious about collecting old phones like these field phones as well because it's something different to add to their collection, so something to know about. Well, dang it, I ran out of time before I could go to DNL, so I will have to get back to Spokane soon. However, it's time to go home, and here is part of the view going home. I'm in the Columbia River Gorge near Vantage, and I just wanted to show you a few of the highlights because it is a pretty drive, and when you come up out of the gorge you see Mount Rainier on your left, and to the right you will see a nice sunset and foothills of the Cascade Mountains. So it was so good to have you with me. If you ever get to Spokane, it is a place worth shopping for antiques and vintage. In the meantime, catch up with me on the social media you see here, and good to have you with me. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below. Click the bell to be notified when new videos upload. Leave a comment below and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.